Phil Foden is a clear example of how fast football moves. In 2024, he was the best player in the Premier League.
But I think this season for Foden, we know he's brilliant. I think it's been a breakout season in some ways where it almost feels like he's one of the main players.
You couldn't open social media without seeing him.
Foden. Oh, brilliant!
Bernardo Silva, Foden! And Foden. It is such a pretty goal. It's a City goal.
Then, in the beginning of the 2025-2026 season, his own manager said he was back.
Is Phil Foden back to his best?
This season is back, yeah.
He was once again looking like one of the best players in the world.
It's Foden again. Oh, this time he finds the finish. And it's Foden. He's done it again. 2 for Foden, 3 for the Blues.
Last night, he was lethal. Foden is back. He's all new. He's all round. Should Foden be back in the England squad, Michael?
He ended 2025 with 6 goals in 4 Premier League games and was playing with confidence again. But then, things changed quickly. No goals, no assists, barely any appearances. It got to a point that when Pep was subbing in Foden, you knew the game was already finished, or that Pep wasn't taking his opponent seriously. From Stockport Iniesta to Stockport Garnacho, from City's golden boy to City's bench warmer. What the hell happened to one of England's brightest stars? It's hard for City fans to see Foden be a shadow of himself because this is a kid who's City through and through. Foden supported the club long before he became one of its biggest stars. City spotted his talent when he was just 4 years old through a school program. Then back in 2012, he was a ball boy during Manchester City's dramatic title-winning game against QPR. You guys remember the Aguero goal? That moment made him dream of one day playing for the first team himself. Foden's career actually began during the most dominant period in Manchester City's history. He joined the club at the age of 4, and at that point, the Pep Guardiola era had already begun. Fast forward, and at a young age, Foden had already won so many Premier League titles, FA Cups, a Champions League, and multiple League Cups. From the moment he was a kid in the academy, people around the club believed he was special. I mean, even before he turned 10 years old, coaches were already talking about him as somebody who could one day play for the first team and become the face of the club himself. That connection is important to note because it's probably the only reason that this guy hasn't been shipped out yet. In fact, the club believed in him so much that despite his poor form in the past 2 seasons, they still awarded him a new contract. This is something they wouldn't do for most players. Not many footballers can struggle for so long, visibly lose confidence, and then still get rewarded with a huge extension and what looks like a pay raise. But Foden isn't treated like a normal player at City. He never has been. This is a player who for a while looked like he was becoming the next face of the team. He was scoring huge goals almost every single week, smashing shots into the top corner, deciding derbies on his own, and just helping City win matches. By the end of the 2024 season, back when he won the Premier League Player of the Year award, it genuinely felt like the torch had been passed from Kevin De Bruyne to Phil Foden.
Man City have gone from the David Silva era. Let's say David Silva was the main player, and the team then morphed into Kevin De Bruyne's team. I actually think we're now morphing from the Kevin De Bruyne team into the Phil Foden team.
But years later, things look very different. It's important to remember though that Foden's struggles didn't just appear out of nowhere. In the 2025 season, despite all the criticism around his form, he admitted that there were serious things affecting him mentally off the pitch. Back in May of 2025, Foden said that he was dealing with personal issues, and that sometimes life is bigger than football. He also spoke about how difficult it was to fully perform when things away from the game were not right mentally. There were physical problems too. An ankle injury kept bothering him for long periods, and it was clear he was never fully comfortable. For a while, it looked like he was actually recovering. He looked pretty good at the Club World Cup in the summer of 2025. Then before Christmas of 2025, he seemed really happy. He scored 2 brilliant goals against Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League, and then went on a great run of form in the Premier League. He looked sharp again, happy again. Fans started believing that the old Foden was back. But then, things collapsed again in January of 2026. He barely played in the Premier League, and when he did get opportunities, he just looked short of confidence and rhythm. He was taken off at halftime during the Manchester derby in January, and from then on just looked low on confidence. Pep claimed Foden was taken off at halftime in that game for tactical reasons, but as the months passed by, Foden spent more and more time on the bench. He didn't play at Anfield, got just a few minutes against Tottenham and Newcastle, and was mostly limited to cup games. His performances became quieter, less aggressive. He almost looked like he was afraid to make a mistake. Kinda like the Arsenal midfield when they're trying to build up from the back. Even in games where Pep gave him opportunities, he never really made an impact. Look at the FA Cup semi-final versus Southampton. Foden couldn't really influence the game at all, and when he came off around the hour mark, John Stones actually had to walk over to comfort him. That small moment probably told the whole story better than anything else. Everyone around the club can see this poor guy is struggling. Even the England manager at the time, Thomas Tuchel, noticed it. Tuchel said that Foden arrived at the England camp smiling and training really well, but as soon as the game started, he just couldn't fully express himself on the pitch. That was the problem for months. The talent was still there, but the freedom and confidence were just missing. Then there was the draw versus Nottingham Forest. City dropped points in a frustrating 2-2 game, and Foden played a role in Forest's second goal. Elliot Anderson played a simple 1-2 around him too easily, and Foden failed to stop the move or even slow it down, and City got punished for it. Now, one mistake alone would normally not be a huge deal, but because of Foden's situation at the time, it stood out more than usual. Pep Guardiola continued to support him publicly throughout all of this. Pep described Foden almost like he was a member of his family, saying, "He's my son. He's our son." He explained that every player goes through ups and downs, and that the club is trying to help Foden return to his best level. Part of the problem was that the competition for places got way tougher at City. Rodri was healthy again. Then you had Bernardo Silva, who at the time remained still one of Guardiola's most trusted players. And now there were new signings like Ryan Cherki and Tijani Reinders, all fighting for that attacking midfield spot. You also had Semenyo and Marmoush adding more options on the wings and up front. Suddenly, Foden was no longer guaranteed a starting role. And when he did get chances, he just never took them. Against Forest, not only did he not help defensively, he just had too many loose passes, heavy touches, and so many moments where he looked unsure of himself. It felt like a player still searching for rhythm, and more than anything, confidence. There was also this extra bit of pressure over everything because it was a World Cup year. Foden actually asked to be left out of the England squad in the year before. He said he needed time mentally, and even Thomas Tuchel said that players need to re-find their joy in the game. Since then, Tuchel only selected players who were consistently performing well for their clubs, which meant that Foden's place for the World Cup was no longer completely secure. The frustrating part for everyone is that they know how high Foden's ceiling is. For example, in 2024, Foden was the best player in England. Don't let anyone try to gaslight you. He finished the season with 27 goals and 13 assists in all competitions, including 19 goals in the Premier League alone. It was the season where everything finally came together. If there was ever a year that showed just how special Phil Foden could be, that was it. The whole thing really started when Kevin De Bruyne got injured early in the season. Losing a player like KDB could have caused so many problems for City, but Pep reacted fast. Instead of changing the system completely, he gave Foden more responsibility and moved him into more central attacking areas. And from that moment, Foden became the main man. Early in the Premier League season, he really showed his creativity. He picked up 3 assists in 3 games, as City beat Newcastle, Sheffield United, and Fulham. But after that, the goals started coming too. He scored against Manchester United, Bournemouth, Spurs, and Everton, showing he could hurt teams in every possible way. Then near the end of 2023, the calendar year, he delivered again in the Club World Cup final against Fluminense, getting a goal and assist. That goal made him the first English player to score in a Club World Cup final since Wayne Rooney back in 2008. More than the numbers though, it was the way that he was playing that stood out. He looked fearless, so confident. Every time he touched the ball, something magical would happen. By February, he took things to another level with a hat-trick against Brentford. Then a couple of months later, he did it again, this time against Aston Villa. That game also gave fans something new, Foden's first ever free kick goal. He bent it perfectly into the top corner, like he'd been scoring free kicks his whole career. Then came the Champions League. At the Bernabeu against Real Madrid, the biggest stage in football, Foden stepped up again. He scored an incredible goal in a wild 3-3 draw, and continued a run where he had scored in 5 straight Champions League starts. The only other English player to have done that before Foden was Steven Gerrard. That moment at the Bernabeu felt huge because KDB had also scored an iconic goal for City in that same stadium years earlier. Again, it felt like a genuine passing of the torch moment. Foden was becoming the player carrying Manchester City forward by himself. At that point, Foden was in unstoppable form. Every single week, in the business end of the Premier League season, he continued to produce huge moments. People had always known he was talented, even from a young age. But now he was the one deciding matches on his own. In March, he scored twice in the Manchester Derby to lead City to another comeback win over United. After the game, even Pep admitted that Foden was the player of the season. By May, the entire footballing world agreed. Foden won the Football Writers Footballer of the Year award, the Premier League Player of the Season award, and later the PFA Players Player of the Year. It's not like these are fan-voted awards. You got journalists, coaches, and even the players themselves all choosing Foden as the best player in the country that season. It tells you just how high of a level he reached. Then came the perfect ending to the season. On the final day with the Premier League title still on the line, Foden scored twice against West Ham in a 3-1 win that secured City's 4th straight league title. Once again, he was the difference maker when the pressure was at its highest. That title win made him the youngest player ever in Premier League history to win 6 league titles. Like, don't chat to me about Palmer and Saka. Look at what Foden was doing. City fans voted him their player of the year too, and honestly there was no debate. Every time City needed something special, Foden delivered. A quick dribble through defenders, a curled finish into the top corner, a perfectly weighted pass that cut the defense apart. He always found a way to change the game. That season was proof that Foden had reached the very top level of football. For many fans, he had separated himself from the rest of England's young stars. He was no longer just the future of English football anymore, he was the present. It was the season where the Stockport Iniesta truly became world class. But we haven't seen that version of Foden in a long time, at least not consistently. In fact, the first sign of trouble actually started in the summer right after that beautiful season, when he went to the 2024 Euros with England. A lot of fans and pundits criticized Foden's form at the tournament because he wasn't able to replicate his Manchester City form for the national team. After the tournament, Foden admitted he came back mentally exhausted. Part of the frustration came from the way that England used him. At City, Pep had unlocked the best version of Foden by letting him play centrally, where he could control games and get more involved. But for England, Gareth Southgate mostly played him on the left wing. Foden later admitted that the role made it very difficult for him to influence matches. Things got worse physically too. Now, to be fair, even when he has played centrally, it's not like he's been amazing for England. A bad ankle ligament injury kept bothering him and eventually sidelined him for around 6 weeks. Because of that, he never really found momentum during the season. After scoring 19 Premier League goals the year before, his numbers collapsed. He managed just 7 league goals in 28 appearances during the 2024-2025 campaign. Then came the 2025-2026 season, which many people thought would be Foden's redemption year. And for a little bit of time, it actually looked like that was true. From mid-November to late December, he looked fantastic. But then after that, it was the same issues. I mean, those are legit Liam Delap numbers. So why has he declined so much? Well, the answer is a mix of everything. Tactical changes, pressure, mental fatigue, and problems away from football have all played a role. During his best season in the 2023-2024 year, Foden spent most of his time close to the opposition box, constantly getting into dangerous areas where he could either score or create. But by the 2025-2026 season, Pep was actually using him even deeper on the pitch, almost like a number 8. Because of that, Foden was spending way more time helping City in the build-up rather than being forward more to actually finish the chances created by others. In his peak season, he had over 200 touches inside the opposition box. By 2026, that number had dropped all the way down to 80. His passing and ball progression were still excellent, but naturally his goal threat disappeared because he was simply playing further away from goal. The bigger issue is actually the mental and emotional burnout. Foden has been under pressure for years. I mean, the guy became a dad at just 19 years old and already has 3 children by the age of 25. At the same time, he's been carrying the expectations of being called England's golden boy since he was a teenager. But tactics are only a small part of this story. Between non-stop football, huge expectations, injuries, things off the pitch, and barely getting a proper break in the summer, it could simply be that Foden is exhausted mentally. A lot of fans started wondering whether the constant pressure had finally caught up to him. There were many reports from inside of Manchester City that he suffered from brain fog during the 2024-2025 season. Some people around the club noticed slower reactions and a lack of sharpness from him in training and in matches. Maintaining those standards, both mentally and emotionally, is very difficult to do, especially when you look at how long Foden has been playing football at the highest level. Now, City still trust him, and they hope that he can get back to his best, because when Phil Foden is smiling, confident, and free mentally, he's not just a good player, he's one of the most talented footballers that England have ever produced. To see how a similar thing is happening to another bright England star in Cole Palmer, you have to watch this video right here.